Hey, everybody. So, you know how when you're doing something and then it hits you like, oh, this might help everybody? A wonderful human that I coach and I were working on this strategy called work to do work. And the idea is, hey, sometimes our brains fight so hard to get started on things because it's actually a lot of work to do the actual work. And what I mean by that is just getting started takes a lot of convincing, getting into the right mindset, finding your materials. And then by the time you're actually into the zone to work, you've used all your brain fuel and you're tired and you're frustrated. And so there are some ways to kind of recognize if you notice that pattern and then do something about it. So the strategy we have today that is on the screen, and if you notice like, oh my gosh, this looks so boring, I get it. It may look boring if you're not an economics person. This happens to be about econ, but the cool thing about this strategy is it works for everything. But if you noticed like some changes in your body, like the feeling of stress, maybe you looked away, maybe you were like, I don't want to click on this, but I kind of know Sarah's got good stuff, so maybe I will. Yeah, makes sense, right? Like our brains are like, oh, no. I want to protect the glucose that I need to stay alive and not give you glucose brain fuel and all that good stuff because this is hard and I'm going to have to work in order to do work. So the strategy that we are test running, and again, it's like being in the laboratory of life. We're going to see how it goes until it's automatic. The strategy we're using is turning the questions into the beginning of answers and only doing that step for now. So I'm going to show you a couple ways of doing that. But basically, when this amazing human, and shout out and thank you for letting me use your work as an example, but when this person who's a junior in high school gets a big long assignment, I think this is 9 pages for 2 chapters, when she gets this, there's a little bit of like, ugh, I don't want to get started. This is really tricky. And so we make space for those feelings. We notice them in her body, like, okay, my tummy's feeling tight, or any number of ways that stress shows up. And then we say, all right, we're going to do the work to do work and then quit for the day. We're going to just set up the document so that when we're in the focus zone next time, hey, we can just jam. We can get the work done right away. So here's what it looks like. I have a couple of these already done. Like I said, it kind of hit me midway through. Wait a minute. If I ask this client's permission, then maybe I can share it and help everybody. And she was very gracious in allowing me. And so what I wanted to show you was a couple of things that she and I have been doing. Granted, now, just for privacy's sake, it's only me in the doc, but she also knows how to do this. So the idea with doing work to do work is that you separate them on different days so that you can spend some brain energy getting yourself started and then spend some brain energy later doing the work. And the idea eventually is that this getting started part, becomes so easy and routine that eventually you can kind of put it into practice where you do them both at the same time. But if it's overwhelming right now, that's okay. This gets to be its own job. And then again, when you open the doc next time, your brain will look and be like, oh, wait a sec. I already put in all the guideposts. I already laid the pathway. My brain knows what to do. It's all right, brain. We got this. So a couple of examples. You can always work smarter, not harder. So you can always copy and paste. I find that sometimes when I do, the automatic format of the question comes along with it, and it's a little bit annoying. So hang tight on that. You don't have to. But the idea is you read the question and then find a way to use the words inside of the question to start your answer. So I'll start here on number 2. When is demand for a good considered elastic? So you'll notice that took my brain 2 swipes at it to even make it make sense, because normally good is a describing word, like my good friend. And in this case, it's a noun. So sometimes even unpacking the questions can slow down our brains and make us go, ugh, this is frustrating. So even executive function experts, even 40-year-olds who have been working in schools for 20 years and went to school for a lot of years, even our brains struggle sometimes. Okay, so read the question. When is see, I still can't do it. When is demand for a good considered elastic? I can take most of this and turn it into the start of my answer. So when is the question word. Is the helping word or helping verb. So I can take this piece, the rest of the question, demand for a good considered elastic. And if you notice when I copy and paste it, sometimes it steals the format and sometimes it doesn't. Okay, now here's where I have to read it out loud to make it make sense. Demand for a good considered elastic. I need to pop in that helper verb. Is. Demand for a good is considered elastic. Now watch this. Pop the question word back in. But now it's part of the answer, and my answer is set up. So after I've read that part of the chapter, my brain doesn't have to think about, okay, how do I put this into words? I've already got it started. It's an on-ramp to my answer. It's like a welcome mat to my brain. And I'll just go in, finish a sentence, and be done. Okay? Let's do a couple more. And to make the invisible visible, yes, you're going to have to go in and make capitals and then reread it to make it make sense. All that stuff matters, but if you are the type of person that likes to brain dump and then go back and clean it up, absolutely fine too. Maybe you don't go in and do capitals at the time. That's okay. So next one, what type of goods are usually most elastic? Hey, we happen to know that this teacher is okay with lists. So we're going to copy and paste this part. Type of goods are usually most elastic. And then I'm going to just start with some bullets so that my brain knows I just need to make a list. And then I got to make it make sense. Type of goods. These type of goods are usually most elastic. There we go. Are you noticing a pattern? We take part of the question and then make it make sense as an answer. This makes it helpful for word count. So let's say you have to have a lot of words in your answer. Repeating the question is a great way to get some words for word count. It's also a great way to provide structure to your sentence, so you're not doing part of an answer but not a full sentence. And it helps clarify so that teachers, when they read your answers, can see that you're actually answering the question, because the question is built into the answer. I actually was trained by the state of California to be an assessment evaluator. So the state tests, we would go through and read students' written responses, and then we'd calibrate. There was a whole thing. And what I noticed most poignantly was you got the most points for simply following directions. And the kids who use this strategy of taking part of the question and forming their answer from it actually got automatically higher scores than the kids with the better ideas, but in worse format. Isn't that wild? So it's a really good way to make studenting easier is to, one, get in your doc and do the on-ramp work first, all of the work to make it easier for yourself. And then two, use the words that are already there to start you off, to get you going. So let's see, this is another when. When is demand inelastic? So I got my question word, my helper verb, which I know I'll need to add in later. I'm just going to take the rest, demand inelastic, and then pop in my helper word, demand is inelastic. When? Now when my brain goes in here to actually do the work, I'm like, oh, it's already started for me. I need to add just a few words. Why is salt? Ooh, here's a why is. Okay, so why is one of the only question words that will have a different word that matches with it. So if you think about it, if you ask somebody, hey, why is that tree leaning? Your answer is going to have the word, that tree is leaning because. So you can't actually put why in the answer, but when you read it out loud, it will sound right. You can trust your ears. Okay, so I'm going to not take these two, the question word and the helper verb. I'm going to copy and then put it on a new line so I don't overwhelm my brain. Salt, an example of, need to add that helper verb. Salt is an example of an inelastic product. The matcher for why is because. And then away we go. Okay, what is an elastic unit? I'm just going to do these quick while I have you. A unit elastic is, by the way, this isn't an, just for my grammar geeks out here, because it has to make a vowel sound, and y in the beginning of unit is not a vowel sound. So a unit elastic is. Got my answer started, and away we go. How is total revenue calculated? Are you watching this pattern? You just question word, verb, skip, copy, paste, make it make sense. So total revenue is calculated by, okay, and these are our best guesses, my dears. So you may come back to it and you've already set up your whole document, you're ready to rock, and then you're like, oh, actually, this sentence doesn't make sense, I'm going to reword it. Totally fine. The idea isn't that you're like prescribing and being psychic exactly what you need. The idea is, oh, well, actually, I've got it all started for me. Like, whew, I did this favor for future me. I barely have to think about how to format it. All I have to think about is my answers. I'm not doing double duty anymore. One last thing before we go is that we highlight the signposts for this particular human because sometimes her brain gets overwhelmed and forgets where to look. And that happens to a lot of us. And so we highlight them because novelty, something different, will capture attention. It works for any brain, but especially brains with ADHD. So if there's something that is bright or loud or moving or bold or something like that, it's going to steal your attention. And we can do that in a good way by getting you to pay attention to something that's helpful, like where to look for your answers. Okay, I'm sorry that this was just a boring screen. It's that time of year, and we just wanted to make sure that I got this out there for my wonderful humans that I love so much. So thank you for sticking in with me, and please reach out if there's any questions about this, if something wasn't clear, and be kind to yourself as you practice these strategies because it will be bumpy. That's part of learning something. Nobody's good at something the first try. Even though your friends might tell you they are, they're not. We're humans. We're learning. All right, if you want more strategies, join me on the Executive Function podcast or sarahkesty.com. All right, everybody. Love you all so much. Talk to you soon.